Cairo, a talented 18-year-old writer, lives alone in an isolated house. Since the disappearance of her family, she finds solace in writing as a way to escape the loneliness that gnaws at her. Passionate about literature, she dreams of publishing her own book but is still searching for the necessary inspiration to create a captivating work. She has a habit of going to school every day, crossing a dense forest dressed in a mini skirt and high heels, an outfit that often draws attention but that she fully embraces. At school, Cairo is particularly close to Jonathan Miller, her 45-year-old literature teacher. Jonathan is a middle-aged man who once dreamed of becoming a great author, but his writing career faltered, and he resigned himself to teaching literature. Despite their age difference, Jonathan sees Cairo as an intelligent and promising young woman and plays an almost paternal role in her life. For her part, Cairo deeply admires Jonathan, though she keeps this admiration secret, harboring complex feelings toward him. Jonathan asks Cairo to read the books assigned for the semester. To his great surprise, Cairo tells him she has already read all 12 of them. Impressed by her passion for reading and ambition, Jonathan engages her in a deep conversation about the various literary themes addressed in these books. Their intellectual exchange is fluid and intense, and both seem captivated by the discussion. However, the studious atmosphere is quickly interrupted by the arrival of Winnie, Cairo's best friend, who invites her to lunch. After the two girls leave, Jonathan, still curious about Cairo's readings, checks the books she left on his desk. As he flips through one of the books, Boris, his eccentric friend, enters the room and grabs the book to read a passage aloud. It happens to be a particularly explicit passage, which makes Jonathan uncomfortable. He tries to stop Boris, but Boris persists, laughing at the situation. As they continue talking, Boris also notices a book written by Jonathan himself and expresses surprise upon learning that Cairo had read it. Back at home, Jonathan tries to share his excitement with his wife, Beatrice, about the fact that one of his students has read his book. However, Beatrice is absorbed in her work and pays little attention to him. Their relationship has become routine and distant, a reality Jonathan is starting to feel more acutely. They are then interrupted by a call from Amy, Beatrice's colleague, requiring an urgent discussion. Later that evening, Jonathan tries to rekindle the spark between them and flirts with his wife, but another interruption from Amy ends their attempt at intimacy, leaving Jonathan frustrated and unsatisfied. The next day, Jonathan tells Boris how disappointing his weekend was due to Amy's repeated interruptions, which ruined a romantic moment with Beatrice. As they talk, they spot Cairo coming out of the woods on her way to school. Still agitated from the previous day, Jonathan gazes at her intensely as she approaches. Unaware of the tension emanating from him, Cairo greets them cheerfully, as radiant and carefree as ever. Later, Cairo talks with Winnie, who gently teases her, pointing out that Jonathan often looks at her intensely in class. Winnie urges Cairo to consider seducing her teacher, suggesting that it could provide her with ideas for her book or even for an upcoming assignment. Embarrassed by the idea, Cairo initially rejects the suggestion, insisting that the age difference between her and Jonathan is too great. But Winnie persists, assuring her that Jonathan is a kind and caring man and that it could be a rewarding experience for her. Although hesitant, Cairo can't help but think about what Winnie said, and an interest begins to grow within her. Over the following days, Cairo finds herself looking at Jonathan more often in class, and she begins to develop a growing attraction to him. This curiosity intensifies when, one day, Jonathan discreetly approaches her and asks to meet him in his office after class. There, he congratulates her on the quality of her recent writings and proposes a new project, to write a short story in the style of her favorite author. Jonathan believes that if Cairo succeeds in this task, she could excel throughout the semester. Excited by the opportunity, Cairo enthusiastically agrees, seeing it as a chance to deepen their literary relationship. Jonathan invites Cairo to meet outside of class hours to further discuss her writing. During their meeting, Jonathan surprises Cairo from behind, and a palpable tension arises between them. They exchange glances and smiles, and Jonathan suggests that they could perfect their writing skills together. Later in the evening, after attending a poetry reading, Jonathan and Cairo passionately critique the presented works, exchanging their opinions with fervor. Still nervous but attracted to Jonathan, Cairo pulls out a cigarette and offers it to him. He accepts, and this simple gesture strengthens their bond. The next day, Cairo decides to change her appearance. She adopts a more provocative look, hoping to catch Jonathan's attention. Though he doesn't directly comment on her change of style, Cairo senses that he has noticed, which satisfies her. Meanwhile, she confides in Jonathan that she wants to write her short story in the style of author Henry Miller, known for his tales of love and sex. Jonathan, fearing it might cause problems, hesitates but ultimately trusts her and allows her to pursue this bold project. Days pass, and the conversations between Cairo and Jonathan become increasingly intense. However, this closeness also stirs up tension. When Cairo sends her work to Jonathan, he is disturbed by the explicit scenes she describes. The adult content in her writing stirs feelings of unease within him, but also an unspoken desire. The next day, Jonathan avoids Cairo, no longer looking at her the same way as before. Aware of the change, Cairo asks him what's wrong. Troubled by his own feelings, Jonathan dismisses her explanations and tells her he can no longer support her work or continue their relationship. Hurt and furious, Cairo explodes, criticizing Jonathan in his own works, which she labels mediocre and boring. The argument reaches its peak when she accuses him of being jealous of her literary talent. Following this altercation, Cairo decides to take revenge. She sends an anonymous letter to the school principal, alleging an inappropriate relationship between herself and Jonathan. An investigation is launched, resulting in Jonathan being suspended from his duties. When his wife Beatrice learns the news, she confronts Jonathan, asking him if he has feelings for Cairo. Unable to lie, Jonathan hesitates, and Beatrice, furious, demands a divorce. Cairo, for her part, revels in what she considers a victory. Although Winnie warns her about the consequences of her actions, Cairo is indifferent to the repercussions on Jonathan's life. For her, it is a way to prove her superiority as both a writer and a woman, and to take revenge on a man she feels has never truly recognized her worth. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on our videos. Thank you for supporting us by sharing the video, and once again, thanks for watching.